What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Top Dogs podcast here on the Field of 68 Media Network. My name is Rob Doster, and I'm coming to you live from our Airbnb in Scottsdale, Arizona. We're about 45 minutes from the stadium. Before I talk about what happened last night, I just got to say, I do think that Phoenix is one of the more fun places to have a Final Four. Scottsdale is a blast. Downtown Houston is the vibes are incredible down there. All the hotels, um, all the team hotels, all the hotels that coaches stay at, all the hotels that people stay at, the bars. Huss Brewing has been an incredible venue for us. So appreciative of them hosting us and allowing us to do our shows there. But and I even think that the stadium at Glendale is as good of a setup as you're going to find. There's like an entertainment district over there. There's a sports book over there. There's a whole bunch of restaurants and bars over there. Um, the three different spots that you can be in are just they're so good and they're so much fun, and they all take like 40 minutes to get to. It's the process of getting from place to place to place in Phoenix at the Final Four is just it's miserable and it's irritating. And you're either looking at having to spend a couple grand on renting a car or having to spend $120 every time you got to get Uber someplace because there's so many people that are trying to get to those same spots with those same Ubers that they can just jack the prices up. It's expensive to be out here. Yeah, I mean, shit. The bar we went to the other night I ordered three Coronas and it was like $70 for the tab. It ends up all that stuff ends up adding up and it gets really really expensive and it becomes something where if you are we got UConn fans here. If you're a UConn fan and you go from the Big East tournament to Brooklyn to Boston to Phoenix, that's probably not all that much travel, but the hotels add up, the bar tabs add up, the Ubers add up, the travel adds up, the flights out to Phoenix were insane. So um, I have a great deal of respect and also empathy for all the people that are making the trip and spending all that money, and also the people that wanted to but couldn't quite afford it. So it is what it is. Phoenix has been a blast, but getting back and forth to everything, I cannot wait until I don't have to do that. At San Antonio next year, everything is going to be walkable. Will be, a delight. I can't wait for that. All right, let's talk about this game. Let's talk about this Final Four. Let's talk about UConn making it back to the national title game for the first time since 2023. It's last year we were talking about how long it's been since they've been in this position. This year it is a completely different scenario. Opportunity to go back to back, opportunity to be the first team since Billy Donovan's Florida Gators to win two straight national titles. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm gonna go elaborate on this more later in the pod, but I am so excited for the game. This is the matchup that I think we all wanted, at least from a national media perspective and an unbiased observer perspective. I am curious. I would love to know from you guys. Like, if you are a UConn fan, did you want Purdue? I think it's very clear to me that Purdue and UConn are the two best teams in college basketball. I think that it is the two narratives and the two storylines that everybody wants. It is a juggernaut team against a juggernaut player. It is the first back-to-back National Player of the Year since 1983, going up against the potential first back-to-back national champion since 2007. You have a potential top five pick in Donovan Clingan going up against a potential lottery pick in Zach Edey. We have a 7'3" monster going up against a 7'4" monster. We have a team looking to repeat going up against a team looking to go from losing to a 16 seed to winning a national championship. We have two guys that I do believe are going to end up being Hall of Fame head coaches one day. The storylines and the narratives and the hype around this, it just everything about it is just so incredibly perfect. And I think the biggest thing, at least for me, is it's two programs that have been incredibly accommodating to fans, to media, to the field of 68. I'm really, really, really looking forward to this game. I'm really excited about seeing this matchup. I am nervous as hell about having to deal with Zach Edey, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Both of these fan bases have shown up in Phoenix And I hope everybody is able to enjoy the next, at this point, 36 hours before the game tips off, because once it does, it's all downhill from there. All right, let's talk about this Alabama win. I actually thought that the game plan that Alabama came up with was as good of a game plan as you're going to come up with to be able to slow down this UConn team and this UConn program. Essentially, what they did was they did not guard Steph outside the 3-point line. It wasn't quite as exaggerated as what teams did to Andre Jackson last season, but they basically played a good 5 to 6 feet off of him. They used his defender as the helper to try to avoid allowing Donovan Clingan to take advantage of the size mismatch that he had when Alabama went small, so they could put Jaron Stevenson in front of Clingan and then put Grant Nelson behind Clingan, and you can't get the ball to him in the post. They top locked Cam Spencer and Alex Karaban coming off of all those ball screens. Basically, what that means is that if you have a player running off of a down screen or running off of the stagger, instead of trailing that guy, you have the player stand in front of him as he tries to run off that screen to be able to try to prevent him from even being able to get a touch off of the curl. And they stayed home at drives on Cam and Alex Karaban and just helped off Steph's man whenever there were ball screens. And I thought that it actually worked fairly well considering everything, but UConn was still able to score 44 points in the first half on 1.4 points per possession. They still scored 86 points in the game. And, at the end of the day, you can have the greatest game plan in the world if you don't have the greatest defenders in the world. As Randolph Childress loves to say, at some point, the game is Jimmy and Joe's versus X's and O's. And UConn had the Jimmys and the Joes. Alabama did get hot early. They hit 9 to 12 from three. They ended up tying it on their only three of the second half when Mark Sears hit it from the deep corner. And then they just hit one of their next nine as UConn was able to kind of pull away. And, there were a couple spurts in there where the UConn Avalanche just hit. I thought Sampson had two moments in this game that were really, really, really important. There was one on back-to-back possessions. He got blocks at the rim or changed shots at the rim and had a dunk at the other end in the first half. And in the second half, he was so instrumental in that 8-0 spurt that took it from a 56-56 game to a 64-56 UConn lead. And, I think that really, really helped UConn get going. And I think that his energy, it just changes things when he gets in there. He is such a different player and such a different dynamic from Donovan Clingan that when he gets going, it can mess you up a little bit on the other side of the floor. But look, the guy we got to talk about is Steph Castle. I thought that the game that he had yesterday, basically what Alabama said is we are going to live and die with Steph Castle beating us. And they died with Steph Castle beating them. I thought he was unbelievable. He hit two threes in the first 3 minutes that really got his confidence going. Like, he strikes me as the kind of dude where if you're going to let him shoot, I still don't think he's a great shooter. I think that he can get there. That stroke looks better than it did early in the season. He's shooting with more confidence, but he's one of those competitors where it's like, all right, you're going to let me do this? Watch what happens. And he knocked down too early, and I think it just got the confidence flowing. He looks like a top 5 pick. I don't know. I might even take him over Donovan at this point. Like, I think both of those guys are going to end up being like top 6 or 7 picks in this draft. It's kind of a situation where, like, some people like mint chocolate chip ice cream, some people like pistachio ice cream, some people like banana splits, whatever it is. It's just kind of who ends up being the better fit for what you're trying to do. But I do think that both of them are going to be good pros for a long time. And I think what Steph did on Saturday night really showcases that. And it wasn't just the threes that Steph hit either. He was bullying mismatches in the post. He had a couple plays where he came off ball screens and curled into the lane and hit floaters over length in and around the basket that were really, really impressive shots that he made. There's the what he can do on the defensive end of the floor is completely different from anything else that anyone on UConn can provide. Just look at what Boo Boo did against him. Look at what Terrence Shannon did against him. I actually thought that Mark Sears played incredibly well considering the level of defense that he was dealing with. And I think that it's not just the scoring either. It is the way that he's able to fight for loose balls, what the work that he does on the offensive and defensive glass. I think he is an outstanding player, and I don't think he gets enough credit for how important he is to this UConn team. I mean, think about it like this, right? Like he is the guy where we were kind of saying all year long, well, imagine what happens once Steph actually finds a way to get it going. Because he was dealing with the knee thing early, and he kind of took him a little while to figure out exactly how he's going to be able to impact games. And I think it took the staff a little while to figure out, okay, we got this dude that can do these things, but he struggles with these things. How can we get him into positions to let him be the best version of himself? And the toughness, the defense, the blue collar mentality that he has. It's not often that you see someone that is a five-star freshman that plays the game that way. It's just so incredibly impressive, and he's going to have a great basketball career, and it's going to start next season for him in the NBA. I also thought Alex Karaban was outstanding. He's not the flashiest player. He's not the sexiest player. He's someone where when he makes a move, it kind of looks awkward, and you're like, how is he making this happen? How is he getting to the rim? How is he getting by this guy? How is he staying in front of this guy? He's sneaky long. He's a little bit more athletic than I think people realize he is. And he makes so many winning basketball plays. And there's a couple that stand out. There was probably like 6 or 7 of them in the second half that, were changed the game for UConn down the stretch. But there was a switch out where he had Mark Sears at the end of a shot clock on an island and was able to keep him in front, not let him get to his left hand, and then he ended up blocking the step back jumper. There was another block when he got switched on to Grant Nelson in the post when Nelson was trying to back him down. He got 2 or 3 really important defensive rebounds in the mix, dealing with some of these bigger, more athletic guys. He was able to kind of step into passing lanes and part of what Alabama does so well is they get in the paint, they draw help, and they kick it out, and they kill you on those open threes. That's what they got in the first half is once they get in the paint and they kick it out, they're so good at like corner, wing, opposite wing, boom, bang home a three because it's wide open. They're like the one team in the country that can swing the ball quicker than UConn's rotations are able to catch up. And there were a lot of times where Karaban was just able to cut off one of those passes. They weren't steals, they were just deflections and knocked it out of bounds, but it took away what Alabama wanted to do. And the offensive rebound and the putback to put them up 64-56 at I believe that was like the 11-minute mark. He hit the dagger to put them up by 11 with about 4 minutes left. Like you need guys like Alex Karaban if you're going to find a way to win. I don't know if glue guy is the right word, however you want to phrase it. He is a winning basketball player that makes the right plays. And I thought that you saw the absolute best of him last night. And if I would have told you back in January of 2023 that we were going to be sitting here and saying Alex Karaban had an outstanding game when it wasn't something where he was like 6 for 8 from three, I don't know if you would have believed me, but it's been really cool and really fun to see his improvement and his development into being a guy that can do that. Clingan was Clingan. He had he got dunked on pretty bad by Grant Nelson, but when you are a rim protector and a shot blocker, that's just part of the game. Sometimes they're going to get you, and if you let getting dunked on bother you or change the way that you want to play, then you're probably not cut out for being a shot blocker in the NBA. And I don't think that Donovan Clingan really cares all that much about it. I do hope that his teammates don't let him forget it, though. That's part of being a team. That's part of being in the culture is that if you get dunked on like that and they got it on video, gotta let them know. But yeah, he had one block in the second half on Sears where Sears came off of a ball screen. Well, Clingan had his back turned the other way, going outside of the opposite elbow. And Sears took 2 dribbles from the 3-point line and went to go lay it in. And Clingan took 2 steps and erased that at the rim. And I was just like, he covers an incredible amount of ground. Like the mobility that he has for a 7'3" dude is really, really, really impressive and not normal at all. And it was fun to watch.
There is nothing better in sports
than tournament time, which is why I need to tell you guys about our partners over at Rhythm. If you're into sports betting, you need Rhythm, the place for data-backed props and picks. For those that are unfamiliar, Rhythm, spelled RITHMM, is the go-to mobile app for player props and game picks. Backed by AI predictive models, Rhythm helps you make smarter and faster betting decisions across all sports, but particularly college basketball. With Rhythm, you get data-backed picks for every single Division I game every single day. Users get free picks daily with the ability to upgrade to unlimited access. If you want to increase your edge and win more bets, go to the link in the description and download Rhythm today. That's RITHMM, the place for data-backed props and picks. And while we're here, let me tell you about our newest partner for the month of March, Splash Sports, the home of certified community competition, where you get to play against your friends and not the house. Whatever game it is that you are playing, from survivors to tiers to pick X, the safest way to play for real money without the hassle of having to track down deposits or worry about payments is through Splash. They have partnered with PaySafe, the best deposit and payment system in the world, to ensure that money stays in safe hands and is delivered to the right places. To join the Field of 68 Survivor Madness, click the link in our profile below and join in. Entries are $5 a pop with a prize pool of up to $4,500. Winner take all. Join Splash and come prove that you're smarter than us. By now, you guys have surely heard about Autograph, an app founded by Tom Brady with the intention of disrupting the way that fans consume content covering their favorite teams. This is how the app works. All of the podcasters, bloggers, and digital creators covering a team have their content sent to that team's page in the Autograph app. Instead of having to bounce from site to site or trying to navigate the safer workspaces on Twitter, you can just scroll through Autograph. This isn't a hard sell. This is the truth. I am a UConn fan, and I use the Autograph app to keep up with the writers I read and the pods that I listen to about UConn basketball. The best part is that every piece of content that you consume gives you reward points. The more you get, the more chances you have at things like discounted tickets to games and the grand prize, a trip to the LA Regional and a spot in a suite for the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games. Here's the best part. We've partnered with Autograph to donate $1 to the V Foundation every time someone downloads the app using the code F68, with a minimum of $2,500 getting donated. The app is free. So download, use the code F68, help us raise a little bit of money for cancer research, and give Autograph a try. I promise you it will be worth it. And while we're here, a quick reminder, make sure that you subscribe to the Daily. We have new landing pages with deep dives into each coaching change, as well as a tracker that provides scouting reports on the transfers that have entered the portal that you are going to want to know about. Hit the link below to subscribe. All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Purdue. Let's talk about this national championship game. Let's talk about this matchup. Let's talk about Zach Edey against Donovan Clingan, Shaq Edey against Clingan, the two-time National Player of the Year against the Great Wall of Bristol. And one thing that I've been asked about like 15 times since we've been down here is like, if you're UConn, what do you do to slow down Edey? Well, you got a guy that's kind of built for slowing down Edey. I don't think. I think you're going to have to send help, right? What NC State did, there were two things that NC State did to really kind of, and look, Zach Edey made fun of Jeff Goodman about this in our post-game interview with him last night, but he finished with 20 points, 12 boards, and 4 assists, and he never really felt like he did not, you did that. This was not the quintessential like Zach Edey dominant performance. He played well. He had some assists, but what NC State did really well to kind of keep him from going completely bonkers was they really pressured out on the perimeter. They really got out and climbed into Braden Smith and forced Purdue to start running their offense 40 feet away from the basket. Like if you go back and you watch it, the ball screens that they were setting for him, the where the offense was getting initiated from was with Braden Smith in the logo, as opposed to Braden Smith running off of a ball screen at the 3-point line. And what that did was it kind of forced Zach Edey to catch the ball a little bit further out on the perimeter. And, Ben Middlebrooks and DJ Burns to a point, both of them did a good enough job against Zach Edey. He kind of got it going early. And then what NC State did was they switched their coverage and they started doubling as soon as Zach Edey put the ball on the floor. I mean, he's 7'4". That ball's got a long way to go when he dribbles it. And so their whole idea and their game plan was, we are going to double from the strong side as soon as he puts the ball on the floor. We're going to trust that our rotations are going to be good enough to get back in time, and we're going to hope that we can get a steal as we're digging down off of it because of the time it takes to dribble. And they got a couple of them. They gave up a couple of open threes. He scored 20 points. He did it on 9 for 14 shooting, but he only got to the free throw line 2 times, and they did not let him beat them. And I think that's kind of the key of what you have to be able to do. Now, I don't know what UConn's going to do defensively. I don't think that it's going to be something where they're full-on double teaming. I don't think it's going to be something where they just let Donovan go one-on-one against him. I think that is too much of a risk. You have a guy who, I do think the foul trouble thing for Clingan has been a little bit overblown over the course of the last week. He's gotten much, much better about not fouling. But I do think that you don't want to allow him to go one-on-one against Zach Edey in the post. You're just asking for trouble if you do that, because Zach Edey's ability to get angles and to back people down and to put you in a position where you're almost forced to foul him. And I fully expect there to be some kind of help coming for him. I think that's the smart way to do it. And I don't know exactly how they're going to do it. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't say it publicly right now. So we'll see. I'm not too worried about all of that stuff. I do think that the other key is going to be, again, guarding Braden Smith. I'm going to be very curious to see how they match up on the perimeter, because the one thing about Braden Smith is that he is smaller than I realized. He's probably like 5'11" as opposed to 6'1". He's slender. He's not, Lance Jones is built like he's a guy that could play running back. Braden Smith is not a guy that's built like he could play running back. And I do think that if there is a concern for me with that Braden Smith matchup, if I was Purdue, the concern for me with that Braden Smith matchup would be if they put Stephen Castle on him. And I think Castle can kind of force him out. I do think Hassan Diarra can do a really good job on him as well. And if you can force them to run their offense, it's a little bit like UConn, where they want to be able to just kind of like cycle through their stuff. And a lot of their stuff ends up with either, it's a high ball screen. They're trying to get basically they're trying to do 2 things. One is to get Edey on the right block and allow him to be isolated and dribble you down and back you down and get to a jump hook, or they're trying to get to what's called a Spain ball screen, where they set the ball screen up top. The opposite wing sets a back screen on the guy that is guarding Zach Edey's man, and either they have the point guard coming off and hitting that little 12-foot pull-up, which Braden Smith has been really good at. You have Zach Edey rolling into the post. Or you have Zach Edey rolling, you can hit him. You can hit the guy that set the back screen flaring out to the top. Or if none of that works, you come off, Braden Smith picks up his dribble, and you have Zach Edey sealing in the paint for a layup. So if you can force them to run that ball screen action from further out on the basket as opposed to right at the rim, then I do think that is something where you can kind of take Purdue out of what they want to run. It's similar to UConn in the sense that you kind of have to blow up their actions. If you're just going to play off them and let them do what they do, I don't think that is necessarily going to work out all that well for anybody. So the 6.5 point spread is wild, by the way. I do think that is, we're talking about, a situation where UConn last year was a 7.5 point favorite against San Diego State in the title game. This year, they're a 6.5 point favorite against Purdue in the title game, who everybody knows is the second best team in America. And that is a lot of points, and it's probably deserved to be that 6.5 point favorite. I think KenPom has it at 3.5 right now, or 4. But it is, it's going to be a really, really, really interesting game to see play out. I'm also curious to see what Purdue is going to do defensively. I think that Edey is probably going to play off of Clingan, probably going to try to stay in the lane and take away stuff at the basket. I think the advantage that UConn is going to have is whoever Braden Smith is going to guard. They have big guards, right? So if you put Braden Smith on Steph Castle, they're just going to take Steph Castle down to the post. If you put him on Tristan Newton, then you're going to have It's going to be kind of like last year's title game, where a lot of what they do is they just kind of let Tristan go when Tristan was being guarded by Darian Trammell, who was 5'8". And if you put him on Cam Spencer, you're going to get a lot of those like Cam Spencer coming off of the curls, where he kind of gets into the lane and does the pivot and does the shot fake and finds a way to be able to get a shot off around 8 feet from the rim. So I expect UConn to kind of go at whoever Braden Smith is guarding. I think if I'm them, I put Lance Jones on Tristan Newton. I put Braden Smith on Cam Spencer, and I put Fletcher Lawyer on Steph Castle, and I try to uh, hope that Fletcher Lawyer is big enough and strong enough to deal with Steph if they want to throw him down into the post. So that's what I would expect to happen. But I've said it all along. There's three things you really got to do to be able to beat this UConn team. One is get Donovan Clingan in foul trouble, and I do think that Zach Edey obviously is very capable of doing that. Two, you kind of have to have like an outlier 3-point shooting performance, right? You have to be able to get hot from the perimeter. You have to be able to force them, um, because you're not getting stuff in the paint against Clingan. You're just not. So like you have to be able to force them to have to stop something other than drives to the basket. And I think Purdue is a good enough 3-point shooting team that we can see them win that way. I would not be surprised if we got a 10 for 18 3-point shooting performance from Purdue. That's the kind of thing that can happen. And then the third thing you have to do is blow up their actions offense. Like you can't just let them run it offense, run offense, run offense, run offense, run offense, run offense. And that's the one thing I don't think that Purdue's necessarily really built to be able to do. But what I will say is that if they do the thing where they just don't guard Clingan on the perimeter and they leave Zach Edey right in front of the rim, it does create a situation where you can kind of overplay on the perimeter, right? Like we saw this with Creighton, where Creighton just kept Ryan Kalkbrenner about 6 feet away from the rim, right? And they exaggerated going over every single screen. It wasn't quite top blocking, but they really exaggerated going over every single screen and funneling everybody right to the middle of the lane, where they were going to say, you're either going to hit a 12-foot pull-up with a guy right there on your back hit, or you're going to have to go try to finish over Ryan Kalkbrenner. And if I'm Purdue, that is exactly what I'm going to do against UConn and hope that it is good enough to be able to pay off.
The best month of the year is here, which is why you need to know that we are now partnered with BetMGM. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the conference and NCAA tournament. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you'll get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not that bet hits. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game, and you get $150 in free bets regardless of the outcome. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boosts, and what I love the most, a nice little parlay boost, as well as a ridiculous array of prop bets for anything that you could possibly imagine betting on in March and in early April. BetMGM is the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use Field150 as the code, and sign up today. And while I've got you here, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get here for absolutely free is to engage with it. Rate and review the podcast, like and share YouTube videos, tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to our show. Whether you are a world-class athlete or a podcaster like myself, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. After a 6-month season loaded with cross-country travel and late nights, I can promise you that proper recovery is a priority for me these days. That is why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this episode of the Field of 68. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers that's powered by the Energy Enhancement System, or the EE system. If you haven't heard of the EE system yet, You'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. Whether you're here in New Jersey or at hundreds of other locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Are you interested in experiencing the EE system technology for yourself? Well, all you got to do is go to unifiedhealing.com/field to learn more and find a center near you. You can find that link in the description below. That's unified, UNIFYD healing.com/field. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before you undertake a new healthcare regimen, including the EE system.
When it comes to like the legacy of this team, I'm going to avoid talking about this until they actually win it. I think it is one, it's bad karma to kind of do it the other way, and but two is, it's looking back is something that we can do all summer long, right? It is something where when we have nothing else to talk about, that's kind of where we can put this stuff into perspective. And I think it's very difficult to put it into perspective when you're still in the moment. I do think that it is impossible to compare across eras of college basketball. Like, look, if you put this UConn team up against the 1999 Duke team that won that lost to UConn in the national title game, they get raked over the coals, man. Like those teams, if you put this up against the 2004 UConn team, like they would get smacked around. Like it just the amount of time that guys spent in college, right? The NBA players that were still in college basketball as juniors and seniors. Rip Hamilton had a chance to be the number one, like a top 5 pick in the draft, and ended up coming back to school for his junior year in 1999. It's a different game. Um, I will say though, when it comes to the level of dominance that we see um, in the era that they play in, I don't know if we've seen a more dominant UConn team than what we've seen from this group in the last year. So it's really, really impressive to watch. And I think that if you're going to talk about defining this stuff as the greatest team in their era, I think you'd be very hard pressed to find an argument against this UConn team being the most dominant college basketball team or the most dominant UConn team that we have seen win a national title. And I do just want to say, I mentioned this earlier, but there's a little bit of emotional hedging for me in this run to the national championship game, right? Like I've said this before, but the hard part about doing the job that I do now and being a fan is that I know all of these coaches, right? Like I know Nate Oates really well. When we were in Tuscaloosa, like I went over to his house and played pool. He's I know Painter really well. Like Purdue has always been really, really, really good to us, really, really good to me, really good to the field of 68. Painter is one of the nicest guys in this business. Zach Edey is a great, great kid. Like I only want the best things for this Purdue basketball program. And I said this at the start of the year. The only team that I would like, if UConn isn't going to win a national title this season, the one team that I will be rooting the most for is Purdue to be able to get it because I think that they don't deserve uh, the hate that they get for last year's loss and the losses in last NCAA tournaments, and they're just so easy to root for. And now it's a situation where the team that I've been a fan of since I was 5 years old is going up against a team where I like everybody so much on that program that I want them to win as much as anything. So um, and I know I'm going to get called a fake fan for this, but like whatever, man. If Purdue does win, it's going to suck and it's going to be miserable sitting there next to Jeff Goodman and Randolph Childress and all these guys uh, that are just going to be dragging me on the show afterwards, and it's gonna that will be miserable. But I do think that it's fair to say that I will take quite a bit of solace in the fact that it is Purdue that won that game, and Purdue that will be cutting down the nets, and Purdue that will be winning the national title. And I hope, I know there's going to be some UConn fans that don't agree with me on that, but I do hope that some people around the country will understand what it means for me when I say that. It's not that I want Purdue to win, but I'm not going to be devastated if it is Purdue that is cutting down the nets. It'll suck. It'll be sad. I want to see, UConn get their back-to-back. I want Hurley to get his back-to-back. I want this program like Clingan and Karaban, all these guys, Tristan Newton, to kind of get their flowers as some of the all-time great college basketball players and all-time great college basketball teams that we have ever seen. Like, you have to put them in the conversation if they go back-to-back like this. But if they don't and Purdue wins, like, I'm not going to be the one that is devastated by that result. I will be very happy for Matt Painter and Zach Edey and Purdue. I will say this, though. I think that this is going to be the most stressful game that we've seen in a long, long time as UConn fans. I would say probably since maybe Marquette in the 2023 Big East tournament. But I'm so, so, so excited for it. I cannot wait to see how this thing is going to play out. This is exactly what we wanted. This is the exact game that I've been hoping to see all season long. This is the exact national title game that I've been hoping for basically since November, and we got it. So now, give it to us. See you guys Monday night.